It says abnormal insight result. Blah, 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 showed 3 chromosome 21 signals consistent with trisomy 21 Down syndrome. Genetic counseling is recommended. Pattern consistent with trisomy 21. Not the result we wanted to see, guys. We talked before this, guys, about what would we do if we confronted this scenario. Because this was the more likely scenario. We talked about terminating the pregnancy.
I bought boy clothes because I was so sure that it was negative. I had the nursery picked out. I was ready. I gotta start all over again.
Because there was just so much noise about it. And I thought to myself, as a society, what exactly are we doing to make our world a better place for people with special needs? Because he read a statistics. He said 90% of women who find out that their children are likely to have Down syndrome terminate it. 90%. That figure is a staggering figure. 90%. Hey loves, how are you? I hope you are doing well. Famous YouTube influencers Jesse and Ashley Ridgeway recently announced that they decided to terminate their pregnancy after prenatal testing indicated that there were markers for Down syndrome. The couple had initially shared their journey with their followers, sharing their pregnancy announcement and also the gender reveal. Take a look.
And we're having a baby! Yay! Yeah!
It's a boy?
Congratulations.
Their excitement unfortunately did not last long because they discovered through testing that their child could potentially have Down syndrome. Take a look.
Here we go. Thought we were going to see the result. I have to download the official report. Abnormal insight result. Consistent with trisomy 21. No.
What is it? Wait. Where are you seeing this?
No.
Let me see. I can't see it.
It says abnormal insight result. Blah, 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 showed 3 chromosome 21 signals consistent with trisomy 21 Down syndrome. Genetic counseling is recommended. Pattern consistent with trisomy 21. Hey. Not the result we wanted to see, guys. I started to get kind of a not good feeling just when the results were sitting here. That's why I didn't want to open them. I started to feel really uncomfortable about it. Just kind of in shock, like, truly. We talked before this, guys, about what would we do if we confronted this scenario. Because this was the more likely scenario. We talked about terminating the pregnancy. Obviously things could change because this is traumatic, like very traumatic. And I know you guys even watching this, this is traumatic for the whole community. I think now that we have a definitive result, we'll talk with these counselors and we're gonna have some hard conversations.
Typically, if the initial FISH result shows trisomy 21, the final full karyotype or microarray analysis also confirms it in more than 99% of cases.
It's just all very overwhelming and confusing to navigate. Ashley is almost halfway through this thing. Not saying we force it, but like the kid seemed healthy and there's been stories where the kid comes out and is like super functional, and so it's like, I don't know. There's just a lot to digest and we're not really going to be doing that in this video. We just wanted to let you guys in on what the results were. Where's your head at? Just sad. Just things have been pretty dark for a while for us, and we thought this was going to be a nice little ray of sunshine, and it's not. Sorry to be crying, dude. It's a lot.
Oh, man. I bought boy clothes. 'Cause I was so sure that I was gonna I had the nursery picked out. I was ready. I was ready. I gotta start all over again. The start of our journey, you know, of just trying to start a family. This is how it starts.
I know it's hard to look at like silver linings, but I mean the fact that you can get pregnant is good. We weren't sure, and it was instant. We don't know why this happens. Maybe it is a birth control over a decade. Maybe it is just random genetic sequencing and it glitches, you know, just like cancer cells. Like sometimes it's just, we don't know.
Truly devastating and such a difficult watch. Guys, I'll be honest with you. Whilst watching this video, I felt very uncomfortable because I felt like it's such a private moment that we just didn't need to see. They didn't need to involve us in. And I think he started off the video by saying something on the lines of, we wanted to let you guys in on the results. I just don't think these are the kind of results you want your followers in on. I feel like they could have had a private moment with these results and they could have announced it later. They could have made a post. But to watch her receive the news in real time and for her to crumble and go through so many emotions, it was just really uncomfortable to watch as a mother and as someone who has been through this process 4 times, who has been through this testing, and I know how anxious and how nervous you are. For those that are not fully aware, this would have been a second testing for them. So they would have had the first testing that the results would have come out indicating that there were signs that there's a possibility that the child could have Down syndrome. And then you're offered another test in that situation. You're offered another test, a more detailed analysis. So they sort of knew what way the test was going to take. And they could have just had that private moment. So the more detailed test, it goes into more analysis. And it tends to be more accurate. I think I heard they were asking some sort of AI. I think I heard the AI say something on the lines of it's 99% more accurate. So this is more definitive. So this test confirms it even more. He goes on to say that this is a lot to digest and we're not going to be doing that on this video. And I guess by digest, he's talking about what their final decision will be. And at that point, I felt, I'm glad you realize that this is a lot to digest. Even for us, the viewers, it's a lot. And we just shouldn't be involved with this kind of detail. Anyways, as I mentioned earlier, the couple decided to terminate the pregnancy and he made a post about it. Let's take a read. He says, "This week, my wife and I made a very difficult decision to terminate the pregnancy due to Trisomy 21. The choice was not made lightly. We really appreciate all of the personal stories that you guys shared with us, especially the unconditional support we received from fans with no matter what we decided. I know some of you may be very disappointed to hear this news. We are devastated. This has been extremely traumatic for both of us, especially Ashley. She underwent the procedure earlier this week and is on the mend." Can I just stop there? I just think it's absolutely crazy that for someone who's just been through that procedure and for him to be posting it literally within a week, like, give the woman a break, give her space to come to terms with what's happening. He goes on to say, "Thankfully, everything went smoothly, but emotionally, we are drained. I can only imagine. Trisomy 21, also known as Down syndrome, is caused by an extra chromosome. It is caused by an error in cell division, like a glitch. The odds of a baby having it is 1 in 1,000. When I first confronted this news, I was shocked but optimistic. If they're a little slow intellectually, then we'll make it work. I signed on to be a parent, come what may, but I just didn't fully understand what Down syndrome entailed. Once we made it public, it became clear that most people don't know what Down syndrome entails. And no, it's not the same as autism." 50% of babies with Down syndrome have heart defects. 75% will have hearing challenges. Over 50% will have vision problems, impaired immune function, developmental disabilities, learning disabilities, delayed physical development, poor muscle tone, structural issues with face, decreased lifespan, etc. Sadly, the list is long. Feel free to look it up. Down syndrome isn't a blessing. It is objectively shitty from a health perspective. I didn't realize just how rough it is for the child, let alone the family. More often than not, they would be fully dependent on others for the rest of their life. The miscarriage risk is also close to 50%, which made matters worse. They may never see the light of day, and it puts Ashley further at risk. We spoke with doctors, friends and family and genetic counselors and learned that up to 90% of women terminate their pregnancy after learning the baby has trisomy 21. 90%. This was way higher than I expected. I thought it would be lower, given I hear so many say they kept or would keep the baby. I believe that's because most terminations happen privately. It feels shameful, a lot of judgment being cast. You never think you'd be in this type of situation until it happens to you, and then things change. To all of my fans who have weighed in on this topic, who have autism, Down syndrome or any other conditions, we appreciate you. You matter a lot and we're glad you're here. I commend you and your families for having the strength and courage to push forward. He says, as for us, we made a difficult decision that we believe in the long run will be beneficial for our family. Thankfully, we had a choice. It will take a little time to move on, but we are excited to try again in the future and hopefully have a better outcome. Love you guys and thanks for understanding. Guys, as you can imagine, this whole situation caused a huge debate online. There were people who thought that what they did was wrong and that every baby has a purpose and that they don't have a say or choice in whatever God gives to them and that they have no right to take another life, whether it has Down syndrome or not. I saw another comment that said that if she cannot accept a child with Down syndrome, then she does not deserve to be a mother. Another content creator went as far as saying that these people are no different to Adolf Hitler. And then you have people on the other side of the argument who say it's their choice, that this is what science is for. Some argue that we can't just accept science when it helps us with the procreation of life, for example, IVF. They say we should be thankful that science enables mothers, fathers, to make informed decisions. Well, what do I think of all this? Let's just rewind back to the start. If I'm being honest, I always think that pregnancies should be kept private, kept offline for as long as possible. At most, until all the major tests are done. And this is at the point where you're past the 4 months, past the 5 months mark. I know the big influencers and one can argue that they're constantly online. But to be honest with you, I'm looking at her when she did the pregnancy announcement and the gender reveal. You could barely tell that she's pregnant. So even at that point, they could have still gotten away with it. I just think it's really important to hold off making big announcements, if you can, and wait until you pass those milestones. And the truth is, even in pregnancy, there's no guarantee, even with a healthy child. There's a content creator online who is just amazing and incredible at what she does. She announced her pregnancy and she had to, really and truly, because you could see it, it was visible in her outlook. So she announced that she was pregnant. There was a clear change. And unfortunately for her, I stumbled upon a post that she made about 3 weeks ago where she had posted that she lost the baby at 21 weeks. And she showed her timeline and every scan they had been to up until that point, everything was fine. And at the 21-week scan, honestly. Sorry, I just had to gather myself because it's just terrible. At the 21-week scan, they told her that they couldn't hear a heartbeat and everything was normal up to that point. And so I say to people, and this is what I did for myself, I kept it private for as long as possible until the point where you couldn't. And also the idea of these gender reveals and baby showers, I'm not into things like that. I really do not believe in doing a baby shower and really making noise about something that's not here yet. I really don't understand, what exactly are we showering? I personally believe that once you've delivered safely and sound, you're healthy, baby's healthy, then I personally believe that these showers should be held after. Maybe 3 months after you've given birth, when you have your strength. That way people can come over, they can see you, they can see baby, and everyone is safe and sound. Pregnancy journey and labor and delivery, it's not a joke. It's truly life and death. So me personally, I felt like this whole thing should have been kept private. And if it had been private in the first place, they wouldn't have been telling people that they had a termination, because their followers would not have been aware. And even if their followers were aware about their pregnancy, I feel like termination is such a touchy subject that they should have known that the response will be divided. Having said all that, I do empathize with the couple because I know that that was not an easy decision for them. I know that for many women who have abortions, most of them never forget those abortions, and some never even forgive themselves. I was talking to an 80-year-old the other day, and she was telling me about an abortion she had over 47 years ago. 47 years ago, when she was 33 years old. And she still narrates the story just like it's yesterday. So I know that for Ashley, that wasn't easy. I know that it's very, very painful. I mean, we heard it in the video. She said that she was ready. She said she had the nursery prepared. She had bought boy clothes. And then to have your dreams shattered, the life that you thought you would live, for you to get a diagnosis that changes everything, is truly heartbreaking. It was clear from that video that they both wanted the child and they longed for it. And I'm sure getting to that decision would not have been an easy one. And I'm sure they would have come to that decision from a place of love, from a place of not wanting the child to suffer. Like I said earlier, I wish they had not brought it onto the internet. I do think they thought they would have received some sort of sympathy. However, I'm glad they did, because it raises a lot of questions. And for me, there's definitely a conversation to be had. I'll be honest with you, I'm not here to say whether what they did was right or wrong, because I believe that both sides of this argument have very strong points. But there are a few things I would like to discuss. From this point on, I will not only be focusing on Down syndrome, but I will be focusing on special needs in general. I believe this is a conversation that we need to have as a society. Because when I was thinking about it, I was thinking to myself, and I've always said this, I believe I've even mentioned it on this channel, I believe that this world is not built for people with disability. I honestly do. And I believe that this world can be a cruel place. Even for people without disability, there are already challenges in this world, let alone if people have a disability. Take, for instance, even in 2026, people on wheelchairs are still campaigning for certain buildings and train stations to have better accessibility for them in 2026. And that's just people on wheelchairs. I also think that people are not very kind to people with special needs. I feel like there were a lot of people on the internet, on social media, that were making so much noise about the fact that this couple made the wrong decision. They should have kept it. They should have done this. They should have done that. But how many of those people are kind and show empathy towards people with special needs? I've seen situations where people with special needs have walked into a room and able-bodied people have sniggered, they've laughed, they've just stared as if they've just seen a creature from another planet. I've seen instances where, as a society, we do not accommodate them. People are not nice to them. They're not kind to them. They're more likely to be bullied. And I think this also stems from the home. I think parents need to do a better job about educating their kids with special needs, I take time out to educate my children about children who are special, who are different. One of my kids was telling me the other day about a kid in their class and what this kid was doing. And I explained it to my child that it's okay. You all develop at different stages. Okay? So when people laugh at this individual, you tell the teacher and you also tell them to stop. It's important that as parents, we educate our children. Even in the parks, some children are impatient with them. But it's for us as parents to step in and say, hey, no, you've got to be patient here. Helping our children recognize that, yes, people can be different from you. They might do things differently. There's no need to laugh at them. And if children are not taught this, they grow up into adults and they don't know how to react when people with special needs are around. As a society as well, I think we're not equipped for them. How many jobs are dedicated to people with special needs? When was the last time you were out and you saw someone with special needs, maybe in a store, arranging things on the shelves? When was the last time? And even if that was the case, will you be patient enough to accept it the way they've done the job? Will you be patient? Because there was just so much noise about it. And I thought to myself, as a society, what exactly are we doing to make our world a better place for people with special needs? Because he read a statistics. He said 90% of women who find out that their children are likely to have Down syndrome terminate it. 90%. That figure is a staggering figure. 90%. And a lot of it is fear for how they're going to be treated in the real world. I think it's important that we have this conversation, that we're realistic, that we're honest with each other. Because for couples to come to that decision, they must have thought deeply about it. Do we have systems in place to help families? Do we have the infrastructure, the services, social services, the healthcare, the staff to accommodate them? Not staff that are overwhelmed and are therefore not able to do their jobs properly. Are we as a society compassionate enough to really take care of them? And these are the things that these families think about. And I can only imagine the strain it puts on families, because my goodness, looking after healthy kids, that already takes a toll on you. But then children with special needs, I can only imagine the strain. And I also cannot imagine the strain it puts on couples. It's been said that couples raising a diagnosed child have an elevated risk of divorce. Take a look. Wait, did you know that over 95% of you watching this right now are not subscribed? And only a small percentage are actually supporting this channel. And I'm not going to lie to you, as a small creator, that matters a lot. Because behind every video is several hours of research, editing, and breaking things down so that you don't have to. And sometimes the algorithm decides, yeah, we're not pushing that one. For example, take this video right here. Barely any views. Not because the content isn't valuable, but because it just didn't get pushed. So, if you're watching this and you're enjoying it, this is me genuinely asking you to please subscribe. Don't just subscribe. Please turn on the notification bell. Because by doing that and by watching it, it sends a strong signal to the algorithm to push the video out so that other people can see it. And when you hit the notification bell, it also notifies you every single time we drop a video. Because even when you subscribe, there is no guarantee that YouTube will show you the content. I really appreciate every single one of you. All right, let's get back into this.
This one's a true off my chest. I hate my autistic child, and I'm going to divorce my husband because of it. I just need to scream into a void. Any void. I have 3 children with John. He is the love of my life. Life was perfect before Jill was born. Jill is extremely autistic. She's textbook. Screaming, meltdowns, aggression. We lost everything as a family the moment we realized she isn't going to improve. She's beyond expensive. I had to quit my job when she was 4 to care for her. My other children live in fear of their sister. She hits, breaks things, screams, tears things apart, spits. No medication has worked. No counseling, no therapy, nothing has worked. My husband and I have had a dead bedroom ever since I quit my job, pretty much, and it was winding down severely before then. I just can't do this anymore. A few days ago, I begged my husband to take the day off work so I could clear my head. I felt myself slipping into my own mental breakdown. He told me no, as money was too tight and we can't afford it. While it's true we can't afford it, no one else is willing to take care of Jill. I couldn't stick her on the only people that would, which are my parents. They are far too old to deal with a child hitting them with their full force. Jill got into a fight with one of her older siblings and I just lost my shit. She hurt her sibling so badly and I just lost it. Their other sibling has had to help rip her off and call their father to come home. I screamed at their father that it's over. I hated Jill, I hate him, and we're getting divorced. I said many hurtful things, but nothing about my other two children. I drove over 4 hours with my 2 kids to my sister's place. I had to get away. My husband has been blowing up my phone. I just can't do it anymore. I miss being a good mom. I miss my job. I miss being able to go to the zoo with my kids. I miss being able to go to their school events. I miss eating as a family. I miss restaurants, friends, holidays. I miss having money. I miss life from before Jill. I miss my 2 kids. I miss my husband. I just needed to vent. I know I'm a shitty mom. I know I'm not a good person. I know I deserve it. I just needed to vent somewhere. I don't want to face reality. I just want to wake up from this nightmare.
So sad. It's absolutely heartbreaking to hear a mother say that she hates her daughter, Jill, and she hates her husband, which I know it's not true. I know that she's just overwhelmed from this whole situation because right at the end, she says that she misses her husband. And this is what can happen to you if you're raising a special needs child. It's not easy. She mentioned a point which I'm going to touch upon later. She said that the only 2 people she could take Jill to are her parents, but they're too elderly for that. And she said there's no one else she can take her child to. And that's the thing, because there were so many people on the internet saying that these people made a wrong decision. But the truth is, will you be there to help them? When times get tough and she needs a mental break, will you be there to help them? And it's clearly very expensive. Her husband said, no, I can't take time off because we need the job. We need the money. You won't be there. They will be the ones to fend for themselves. They will be their only village. Because even if you have parents, if they're elderly, they can't deal with that, with a child that uses so much force when they're angry. So these are the thought process. These are what people think about before making such decisions. And the funny thing is, in the comment section of this video that I've just played to you, the amount of people that are saying, send Jill to a home, just send her off to a foster home, send her away. You're saying send her away as if it's like an animal. Even an animal is difficult to part with, let alone someone's child. Do you know how difficult it is to put your child up in a home? A friend of mine, she had a sibling who was severely autistic. And the mum gave up her life to look after him full-time, to be his full-time carer. And things started to get difficult the older he got, because the older he got, the more strength he had. And the more difficult it was for her to control his tantrums. And she kept rejecting the idea of sending her son to a home. But in the end, I think when he was like 18, she had to make that decision to send him to a home. It's not an easy thing. When you send them to a home, they miss out on family events. They miss out on family functions. They're still part of you. They're still part of the family, but they're not present. It's tough. So the same people who are making noise that they should have kept the child, These are the same people under these people's comments saying, send her off to a home. Can you see what I'm trying to say here? This is the world we live in. Just no empathy. No thought for the parents and how they'll feel. If it was easy, they would have sent Jewel off a long time ago. But it's not an easy decision to come to. I have watched so many undercover documentaries about these homes. And these children, these adults sometimes suffer at the hands of their carers. There's so much malnutrition. A lot of them are abused because their loved ones are not there. Their loved ones are not around. It's truly heartbreaking. Because the truth is, they are vulnerable people. Vulnerable. And let's be honest, no one else can take care of your child as much as you would. They can't do a better job than you would. You will go above and beyond. But imagine in a care home when they've got so much to handle. They've got their own life situations and then they're there in a care home with so many other people to deal with. They're not going to give your loved ones proper care and attention. So they'll be left to suffer. They know fully well that these individuals, the vulnerable, and they will not be able to inform their loved ones about the abuse that they're going through or how difficult the environment is for them. Then there's the impact on siblings. You heard in that video we've just watched where the mother said that Jill had severely injured her siblings. Special needs children, it also takes a toll on the children. They have to grow quickly. They also become carers. Let's take a look at some of the comments I saw whilst looking into this whole story. Sage says, my family member has DS. Raising a special needs child is not for the weak. Not everyone is cut out for it, and it's completely understandable. Gail Ben Elohim says, my aunt has a son with Down syndrome and she never gets any time to herself. It makes me feel so bad sometimes. She's a lifetime caretaker to my 93-year-old grandma too. Wow, that's tough. Boris, my beloved, says, as an older sibling of special needs siblings, I understand. It's stressful and a lot of money. And I'll be honest with you, I wasn't aware that it was a lot of money. But from my findings, I've realized that there's medications, programs. She says they need extra care and attention at times with programs they will need to get into. I've seen the stress and I myself was stressed as well, especially after we became homeless, even more so. It's not evil. It's honestly the right thing to do if you're not ready for that. Jalaxi says, plus it's more expensive to raise a special needs kid, having to get tests, hospital visits, medication if they're prescribed, etc. And most of the time, insurance will not cover all of that. The parents will have to. Sometimes you have to think of the long-term effects as well. Here's another one. It's a bit of a long one, but it's a good one. Jen's 11 says, my older sister has Down syndrome, so I feel I can have an opinion on this. Everyone says they're their happiest kids. Yep, you're right. They are. I remember those days. She was the happiest, sassiest kid. Fast forward to adulthood. It's not that she isn't happy. It's that things are getting extremely complicated. Once they age out of school, being a minor, support services come to a stop. There are some, but services are very limited. My parents have to care for her 24/7. They still work because life. But there is no assistance when they are working. I moved closer after college to help care for her. I'm married now, and me and my husband moved again even closer, 5 miles away, to help care for her. My oldest son, 9 years old, is now stepping up and helping. Services are extremely limited. Just to get my sister's teeth cleaned, a service we all take for granted, is very complex. Just to get her to work, yes, she can work easy jobs, requires us to have one of us available at all times. She's completely aware of things she's missing out on. Marriage, kids. And that just breaks my heart because sometimes it's so easy to think that people with special needs, that they don't feel that they're missing out on things. But to be living a life knowing that you're missing out on something and that you might never even have it, it's just a horrible feeling. It's so horrible. And even more devastating for their loved ones to watch. It can't be easy to see a loved one and know that they might not ever get married or have children. And I know people will say that special needs people get married and have kids. I know. But there are some who just don't. And it's just upsetting. I mean, etc. She isn't as happy as she used to be because of this. Then the talks of what is going to happen if something happens to my parents, because it's just me, my husband and my kids. Will she move in with us? There are complex behavioral issues that I feel will turn my family's lives upside down. She will likely have to face nursing home type placement with me heavily involved. Having a child with a non-terminal disability also has many complexities that heavily affect their quality of life. Quality is just as important. And that's it. It's not just about life, but it's quality of life. You want your child, every parent wants their child to have a good quality of life. I mean, it's the least an individual can ask for. We all deserve to live a good quality of life. And I know there might be some people who will say, yes, they do live good quality of life, but this is Jen's experience. This is her story. This is her reality. I'm not saying I agree or disagree with anything they did, but knowing what the future holds for a child with Down syndrome, I too would be devastated. I would be lying if I said the thought of termination didn't even cross my mind. We had both of my pregnancies tested very, very early so we could make a decision early on. My mom said she would even support my decision. I told her why we were testing early on. My sister is extremely loved and well cared for, but it doesn't take away from the heartache she and we all face every day. The world loves a Down syndrome child, but what about a Down syndrome adult? The world just forgets about them. They just stop existing to anyone but their family. Trust me, I know. She goes on to say, my family is planning a vacation in July and we will be gone for 1 week. We originally wanted 2 weeks, but I just couldn't leave my parents without me longer than that. I know how much they need me. I know they feel guilty over it, but until they are of retirement age, this is the way it has to be. Our world just isn't set up to care for disabled adults. You know, I said it earlier. That's the reality. Children, sure. Adults, question mark. No, the families are left to fend for themselves, pay for simple services out of pocket, having to provide 24/7 care themselves. If there are zero services, what are we supposed to do? It's rainbows and butterflies when they are children, but I'm currently living this right now. My own kids are going to be helping to care for her when my parents are gone. They do it now, and they are 6 and 9. I'm just sharing all these experiences because I think before we go off and start criticizing people's decisions, I think sometimes it's important to hear what other families are facing, what the reality is, because as individuals, we can all come on the internet and give our opinions and say, keep it, don't keep it, do this, do that. But the reality is you're not the one that's going to have to deal with it. You're not. It's them. It's the families. They have to deal with it every single day. And the fact that as a society, we do not have systems in place that allows parents to have a break or siblings to have a break, then it can take a toll on your mental health. What? One of the comments that I saw a lot were people who mentioned that they have a Down syndrome child and the child is thriving, they're doing well, and they're posting pictures of their kids. And I think that's great. That's your reality. And it's so good to hear positive stories. And it's also good to hear that you have the strength to cope with it. But the truth is, some people don't. And like she said in that comment, and I've read it in so many comments, people saying that the world, society is okay with Down syndrome children until they become adults. Take a look.
Unpopular opinion, but I think the reason that people are judging the family who had an abortion due to their child having Down syndrome don't actually understand Down syndrome. The majority of videos that I have seen, the comments are like, why would you ever want to abort a baby with Down syndrome? They're the happiest people and they would never be miserable. Down syndrome is a complex health condition. It is not just being born with an extra gene that makes you happy and looking a little bit different. It often comes with severe heart issues, lung issues, issues with becoming septic, and a lot of times lifelong, round-the-clock care. I have had family members who had Down syndrome who didn't make it past the age of 40 because they come with a lot of cardiovascular health issues. And not all people with Down syndrome are just happy people. I don't understand. I think the Shane Gillis episodes where he's talking about his uncle or whatever, Danny, has really made people believe that Down syndrome just means a happy child. And that's not what it is. You realize that people who have Down syndrome can feel every other emotion that a normal person feels, including abandonment, which is what happens in a lot of cases where you have two parents who have raised this child for the entirety of their life, and then they get to a point where they're no longer able to because they've aged, they have health issues, they don't have a village, and then that child has to go and be in a nursing home. And yeah, they're able to visit in the nursing home, but that's not the same thing as being home with the people who have raised you your entire life. And then what happens when the parents die? If there's not a relative willing to take them in and give them that round-the-clock care that they need, they're going to end up in a home and most likely won't even have any visitors. And if you've ever worked in healthcare, you've seen this firsthand. Being pro-choice means being pro-choice. You don't have stipulations with being pro-choice. You can be pro-life for yourself and still be pro-choice. Just because it's not a decision that you would make for yourself doesn't mean that you have to have stipulations on what you would find acceptable for someone else. If you're going to say you're pro-choice, then that extends to everyone.
Another comment I saw was the number of people who were saying that the child might not have ended up with Down syndrome, that they had a diagnosis like that and their child came out fine. The retesting confirms it in more than 99% of cases. This wasn't the initial testing. Yes, I agree. With the initial testing, I've seen instances where they get it wrong and by the time they do a retest, everything is fine. However, this wasn't the case. This was a more detailed examination and a couple were not willing to risk the 1% chance. And there were also lots of comments that I saw where people say that these children tend to end up in foster homes, and the fact that a lot of people do not even want to adopt children with Down syndrome or with special needs. I really like this lady's take on this conversation. Take a look.
I hope that every single one of you who are so genuinely upset at that couple for choosing to get an abortion when they found out their child was going to be born with Down syndrome are actively in the process of adopting one of the many children with disabilities who are rotting away in the foster care system. Because that's what happens to them. When parents who are not mentally, emotionally, nor financially equipped to take care of a child with severe special needs, said child ends up in the foster care system. And the same way these people who work within the foster care system and who work within the adoption agencies will tell you that nobody ever really wants to adopt an older child, they'll also tell you that nobody ever really wants to adopt a child with special needs either, even if they're a newborn. I hope you are donating your time. I hope you are donating your energy. I hope you're donating your money to organizations who are offering help and resources to parents of children with disabilities. I mean, these are some of the same people who get on social media and scream until they're blue in the face about how they hate children. And they'll be talking about neurotypical children who don't need extra help, who don't need extra care, who don't need extra consideration or accommodations. Y'all won't just get up here and say that y'all are annoyed with bad kids. Y'all will get up here and say that you genuinely hate all kids. You don't want to see them at the grocery store. You don't want to see them at the mall. You don't want to see them at the movie theater. You don't want to see them at the airport. Hell, y'all don't want to see them at child-friendly spaces. Y'all don't want to see them at the amusement park. Y'all are some of the same people who would get in the comment sections of videos and say shit like, I don't get why the kids just can't be checked under the plane with the baggage. Now all of a sudden you want me to believe that you care about kids? Y'all are some of the same people who will see a parent of a child with a disability get online and complain about how they tried to take their child somewhere just to find out that the place was not ADA compliant. They tried to take their child who never really gets to get out of the house in the first place. A child who was restricted to a wheelchair because they were born without the use of their legs. They packed them up in the car, took them somewhere just to get all the way there, and realized that despite the place saying online that they were ADA compliant, they don't even have a wheelchair ramp. And y'all will be some of the same people who will get in the comment section of that parent's video and be like, oh well, everything's not for everyone. Everyone can't do everything. Oh well. Y'all are some of the same people who are criticizing that girl with the prosthetic leg for being cast on Love Island. saying that they're doing too much and that they're focusing too much on her prosthetic leg just for simply showing it on camera. Y'all are some of the same people who I saw in the comment section of a video the other day of a girl with a prosthetic leg who went to a gym to participate in a public volleyball competition and were saying shit like, I don't get why she has to play in the first place. She's holding up the game because she required some sort of extra accommodation. Y'all are some of those same people, and now all of a sudden you want me to believe that you give a damn about children or people in general with disabilities. And I'm going to tell you right now, had that couple chose to have the baby and then found themselves in a really hard position and then they dared to get online and complain about the situation or ask for help or ask for donations, y'all would have been some of the same people in the comment section telling them that they should have thought about that before they had the child. And the issue that I really have is the way that y'all try to romanticize Down syndrome. There's nothing wrong with someone having Down syndrome or any sort of disability. I'm not saying that people with Down syndrome or other forms of disabilities don't deserve to exist and everybody who finds out that their child's going to be born with a disability should just get an abortion. If you can mentally, emotionally, and financially care for that child and that's what you want to do, then absolutely do it and give that child the best life humanly possible. But a lot of you romanticize it to the point of actually thinking that it's not a disability because y'all's only concept of somebody with Down syndrome is Shane Gillis's stand-up talking about his uncle who makes grilled cheese sandwiches. Y'all's only concept of what it's like for somebody to have Down syndrome or to raise somebody and take care of somebody and be the full-time caretaker of somebody with Down syndrome are the situations that actually make it to mainstream media where the person with Down syndrome defied the odds. You know, they were able to go to college, get a degree, get their master's, become a doctor. They're able to live on their own. They're actually self-sufficient. Or the social media influencers who only show you their disabled child's good days. They don't show you the bad ones because they know y'all wouldn't give a fuck. The cases of people with Down syndrome who will never be self-sufficient, who will never go to college, who will never get a degree, who will never be able to work a job, that doesn't make it to the news. That doesn't make it to social media. That doesn't make it into the mainstream media. So you have no concept as to what it's really like for some of these families and for some of these people with these disabilities. And what do you think happens to the adult child with Down syndrome when their parents are too old to care for them, when their parents eventually pass away? They end up in homes where they are neglected and they are abused and they are at higher risk of sexual assault and just assault in general. Not to mention the fact that lots of people with Down syndrome are at higher risks of developing cancer. They're at higher risk of developing dementia. A lot of times people with Down syndrome have a plethora of health issues that they will fight their entire life. There are lots of people with Down syndrome who don't live past the age of 30 or 40 because of how severe their health issues were. And some people just do not have the means to care for somebody with such severe needs. Like, y'all love children with disabilities so much until y'all come across somebody like that autistic boy Cash, who y'all actively encourage his mother to beat. It was all fun and games when Cash was a little tiny baby when he was a little boy, but now that he's become a big, broad-shouldered, heavy-handed young man, now all of a sudden it's beat the fuck out of him. Now all of a sudden it's, oh, go drop him off at a facility somewhere. He wouldn't be welcome in my house. Like, y'all don't encourage her to just physically restrain him to keep him from assaulting her, which I fully agree with, right? Y'all encourage her to beat him, to abuse him. Y'all say shit in her comment section like, oh, Cash would have been turned into change messing with me. I would have done him so dirty he would have been unrecognizable. But you want me to believe that you have what it takes to genuinely care for a disabled child. Okay. And no, I don't think that parents should continue to give birth to children that they are not equipped to properly care for just to keep piling them up in the foster care system when all of you pro-lifers who claim to care so much about children and babies are not interested in adopting any of the children who already exist within the foster care system, disabled or not. Because guess what? Deep down inside, a lot of you also don't want that for yourself, and that's the hard truth. And people are saying, oh, well, it's messed up because you never know what could happen. Your child could be born healthy and eventually have an accident or get an illness that makes them disabled. And it's like, yes, freak accidents happen, illnesses happen, people can be perfectly healthy one day and disabled the next. But guess what? A lot of those people's children also end up in homes because they do not have the emotional, mental, nor financial means to be able to take care of somebody with a severe disability. There are plenty of parents who are crying themselves half to death after having to drop their child off at a home because they genuinely, wholeheartedly cannot care for them once they become disabled, despite how much they desperately wish they could. Why do y'all think that all of these facilities and all these homes are always fully booked? They're always full to the brim and they cannot take in any new patients because a lot of people cannot do it even if they wish they could. You don't have to like the decision that this couple made, but what kills me is a lot of you who are judging this couple are not properly caring for nor raising your neurotypical toddlers, your neurotypical teenagers. And so you would be surprised how very quickly you would realize that you are highly, highly ill-prepared and incapable of taking care of a child with severe disabilities. It's a heartbreaking situation, and even though though it may not be a choice that I personally would have made, I don't really know. I have never been in their shoes. I have never been in a position where I have been faced with the reality of one of my children potentially being born with a disability. But what I'm not going to do is judge and demonize parents for actually being willing to admit that they just cannot do it. Because honestly, a lot of you should have been willing to admit that as well before you had your neurotypical children who are now wreaking havoc over every single person they come in contact with's lives. A lot of y'all should have been willing to admit that before you chose to give birth to and then do a piss poor job of caring and raising for that child who now goes to their school and beats the fuck out of their teacher. Or does smash and grabs at the stores in the mall, or goes on high-speed chases with the fucking police. The hard truth is, a lot of y'all should have never had y'all's neurotypical kids, because despite them not needing any extra care, any extra accommodations, despite them not having any form of a disability, you still were mentally, emotionally, and financially incapable of properly caring for them. And that's why they turned out the way they did. Oh, and by the way, can some of you stop making videos of your infants and your little babies with Down syndrome regarding the situation, acting like anybody's trying to steal them from you? Nobody's trying to take them from you. Nobody's saying that you shouldn't have had them. Nobody's talking about you. It's very weird, it's very annoying, and it's very performative. Your child with Down syndrome is not an accessory. They're not a prop. Stop treating them like one. Thanks.
Well said. I think sometimes it's easy for us to point a finger when we're not the ones going through it. A lot of people, the decision they will make in that situation might even be different to the one they're currently saying. It might be different. They knew what they could handle. Because I think for me, the worst thing is for them to bring a child to this world and for them to neglect it. And for that child to suffer. Because then society will then say, then why did you bring it to the world? It's just a tough one. I've shared it on this channel, a mother who literally had a crash out because she was having to bring up her kid with special needs. I'll just play a clip of her video. Take a look.
Listen to me when I say this. Do not have kids. If you don't know the possibilities of your chance, the possibility and risk of your kids having Down syndrome, autism, being on the spectrum, cerebral palsy, all the above, do not have kids. So from time to time, I let my son come in here and play with his toys. He was way too quiet. Like, bro, this is the type of shit you gotta deal with.
Here is a nurse who narrates her personal experience with a family who had a daughter with Down syndrome. Take a look.
I am not done with this topic. I had to come back for a part 2 because I remember when I was an LPN, before I became an RN, my very first job out of LPN school was working for a pediatric home care. And I remember this case that I had, oh my God, a little girl, she was 2 years old, she had Down syndrome. What I saw that couple go through. Oh, Lord have mercy. It's not even something that, the amount of medications, the things that we're pumping into that child just for that child to live another day. Just for that child to live another freaking day. Only for that child, after all, the parents love that child. Oh my God, the dad, he didn't even want me to do my job. He was so careful. They were so careful, loving of that child, but there was nothing that they could do. That child suffered for so much. I remember the mom had a conversation, and she said, there was something that she said, that obviously they were Nigerian, they were Christian, and obviously it came up in the screening, I think at the 12-week blood work or whatever. But her being Christian, being like, because of this thoughts and judgment like this, the mom decided to push forward with the pregnancy, thinking that a miracle was going to happen, only for them to lose this child when this child turned 3. I remember, even though I was not working with the kid anymore, the mom sent me a message like, oh, such and such is no longer alive. I was like, what? After everything, these parents, they could not sleep, they could not work, they could not do any. It was hard. So if you don't know, you don't know. Everything does not need an opinion. Everything doesn't. Y'all are something. The audacity that you guys have. There's some limits. I know we all run our mouth on this internet, but there are some limits. And then for you to now try to cover it up with Christianity, it didn't make me upset, because none of y'all. This couple, right? I'm pretty sure the mother was like, oh, just pray. Everybody was just pray. This couple, they were by themselves. No friends, no siblings, nobody ever came to say, let me take care of such and such so you guys can take a mental health break, so you guys can take a breather, so you guys can work a shift, something. Nobody was there for them, not a church member, not a pastor, nobody. But y'all are so quick to freaking judge. And then that one is talking about, oh, it's because of looks. If you don't know, then you don't know. Just be quiet.
Honestly, guys, it can't be easy watching your child suffer in pain. And sometimes this is the angle that these decisions are being made from. There are times where my children, where maybe one has brought a bug from nursery and has passed it on, they've passed it on to one another, and there's sleepless nights, and we're just looking after them, and just that alone takes a toll on us. And there are times when I'm just like, I just wish I can just take it from them, but at least that's just for a brief moment and it passes. But imagine where it's just day after day after day, and you just do not know when it's going to come to an end. Constant pain. It can't be easy for a family to watch their loved ones in so much pain. And she's right. It's important for you to be honest about what you can truly handle, because you will be the one to handle it. You and your spouse. I honestly believe that the backlash this couple received was not only because they went on to abort the child, but I do believe that some of the husband's wording, some of Jesse's wordings could have been better. He could have been a little bit more mindful. At one point in one of the posts that he made, he said, hopefully we have a better outcome. I mean, wordings like that. You have to be considerate, because even though you do not want a child with Down syndrome, there are several thousands, millions of families who have gone ahead to have these beautiful children. And so for you to say that it's not a better outcome, it's not being considerate to the people who have gone on to have these children. Because how do you want to make them feel? As though they don't have a good outcome? That's not for you to decide on. So I think it's very important it's a very sensitive topic. It's a very sensitive subject. So your words, you have to really pick them thoughtfully when addressing people, in order not to enrage people and upset people. I also observed this statement from his post where he said, Down syndrome isn't a blessing. It is objectively shitty from a health perspective. I mean, look, you don't see it as a blessing, but other people see it as a blessing. So it's, once again, being mindful. I'm saying that it's shitty. I mean, this guy didn't help himself with the wordings. And I think this also contributed to the outrage that they received online. On a particular live, after all this outrage, he said something that, I'm glad my father didn't abort me, but that's because I'm normal.
Yeah, of course I'm glad my dad didn't terminate me. But I'm normal.
Once again, using very insensitive words. I think that should tell us something. That should tell us that this man, although I empathize with him, but clearly with the way he words his messages, it shows that he's not empathetic towards children with special needs, and he's clearly not matured to handle children with special needs. And I think this is a clear reflection that he's not cut out for it. And I think that's the key thing here. He's not cut out to look after a child with special needs, because he doesn't even know how to address the situations properly. And so it's highly likely that he wouldn't have been able to give that child the love and the care and the compassion that that child needs. This whole situation, honestly, I believe could have been avoided if they didn't bring it onto the internet. I believe this is a controversial topic, and it will always create outrage, whether you're on the side of what they did was right or on the side of what they did is wrong. Ever since posting about this abortion, the couple have received death threats, which I just think is just ridiculous, because you honestly shouldn't be sending people death threats. People have been calling them murderers. And I just really feel sorry for Ashley, because she's having to go through this in real time. She's just had the abortion, they've posted this, and she's receiving backlash. And honestly, this is what happens when you bring this to social media and you're sharing things with people live as it's on a real-time basis as it's happening to you. I saw her do an interview where she said that if she was to have another child, she will think twice about sharing it on social media. And that's the truth. Some things are just best to be kept private. I honestly think this is a very personal decision. It's a decision that each couple should discuss thoroughly and really look at what they can cope with. I know it's not an easy decision. If a couple decides to go ahead with it, it's not an easy decision. If they decide not to, it's not an easy decision at all. What I do think, however, is that as a society, we need to create a more conducive world for children and adults with special needs. A world, ultimately, a world where people with special needs can function like normal people. A kind world, a better place. And I think until we'll get to that point, mothers, couples will never feel confident to bring their child into this world. Foster homes should be more equipped. Staff should be well trained. They should have the resources and they should have empathy towards these individuals. Guys, let me know what you think in the comment section. Do you think what the couple did is right, or do you think they're wrong? Let me know down in the comment section. And guys, my must-see content is a very funny video. Take a look.
You good?
You all right?
Let me see if I can pop. I got stuck in here.
Yeah, no.
Did you take the car?
How'd you get in there?
I was going to, but I didn't want to hurt him. I was trying.
Careful, man.
All right.
Hit from the back.
Get up! Get up!
Careful.
I mean, how did he get him there? A full-grown adult. Look at him. He's so tall as well. Let's take a few comments from this. Bree says, why is nobody laughing? Zero says, this is a type of S that happens 2 minutes before clock out. Ashton says, test drive gone wrong. Kofi says, my mother would have said, let his ass stay in there, always doing S. Lisa says, leave him, he needs to learn. And Victoria said, I got stuck in there like it happened randomly. Exactly. And guys, if you have any dilemma that you would like my advice on, please don't forget to send it to simplytaiwo.official@outlook.com. That's all I have for you guys. Please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you do not miss my next post. Till next time, stay blessed and God bless. Bye.